Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good, from science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we talk about all things good in the pursuit of the adventure of life. I am Rafe, and, Tuesday makes it a great day because it's a buff day. And for the world's greatest listeners out there, those of you who have made us a top 10% podcast, thank you for being with us. You can reach us at bufnagle@bufnagle.com. Remember to share the love, share the buff, give us a 5-star review. That would be a nice thing to do. Thank you very much. Hit subscribe, hit like, give us a smiley star. Whatever you do to make my life better will make your life better. You have to trust me on that one. It's just a good thing to do. All right. Tell a friend to listen and you will get a free episode. And somewhere buried in the show notes, you can find a link to buy me a coffee. Today's show is about waiting. And I thought about playing I guess it's a practical joke or a pun kind of joke. I thought of dropping this episode late so that you'd have to wait for it. And it would be about waiting. And so it would be, what do they say? Apropos. The dropping of the content would be apropos to the content itself. And I still haven't decided when I'm going to drop this show. But if it is late, that's why. And if it's on time, know that you, know that I didn't taunt you like that. We all wait. Right? Waiting is a thing that we do all the time. And, I'm not a good waiter. Even when I was a waiter at a restaurant when I was in high school, and I wasn't very good at it. I'm much better at being the busboy than the waiter. I'm better at clearing off the tables and setting them, running errands, and those sorts of things. I remember one time I used to tell this joke because I'd carry the cases of beer up and down the stairs. And, the guy from the bar would say, hey, go get me, 3 cases of beer. And I'd go down there and bring it back up. And you try to carry as many as you can in one pass because you would like to not make 2 trips up and down the stairs into the beer cooler and then back up. And I would tell people, I remember sometimes I'd run into patrons there as I was walking through the bar, and they would say, wow, that's a lot of beer you have there. And I would say, yes, it's very heavy. And they said, well, hopefully you won't drop it. And I would say something like, well, one time I dropped a case of beer on my foot, and they would gasp in terror at the idea of dropping a whole case of beer. These were like the real cases of beer in bottles. Okay, these were heavy, and they were not pleasant, and dropping them on one's foot would be a bad thing. And I told them, I lied. I said that one time I dropped a case of beer on my foot. And they said, oh, that must have been excruciating. I said, no, it was not a problem because it was light beer. And okay, that's the joke about light beer. But I was better at a busboy. Okay, I was better at bussing tables and setting them, running errands, helping deliver food, and doing those things for me was better than waiting. It was better to do things than to wait. I typically am somebody who likes to get things done. I would like to do the action piece. I want the completion. I want to check the box. I really don't like to wait. And, I'll be quite honest, I think that's probably not a virtue. So it's something I can work on, but waiting is something that we all have to do, right? We all do it at various times, and we do it a lot. As I was writing these words that I'm now reading back to you, as I'm writing these words, I am waiting for a guy to show up to the house to do some work on our sprinkler system. We have a system that once a week or twice a day or however you want to do it, little sprinklers pop out of the ground and spray water all over the place, and then they go back down underground. It's very fun. There's a problem with the sprinkler system. There's a valve in the system that is not closing properly. It needs to be adjusted or fixed or replaced or something. Something needs to be done to it, and that's this guy's job. He's supposed to be here between 8 and 11 a.m., And as of writing those words, it was past 8. It was somewhere, I don't know, 8:45 or something like that. And I was the second appointment on his schedule. And but you know how these things go. I mean, this guy's got 2 appointments on there, both between 8 and 11. He's got to do one of them first and one of them second. I was the second one. And he's got things going on, and he's doing his own thing too, right? And he has to wait at times, right? He may have to wait for the stoplight to change when he's driving to his appointments. He might have to wait for his truck to get filled with gas. I may have to wait for his bacon, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwich that he gets at the fast food place, which is ironic. That's where there promises to be less waiting, actually. He waits for the homeowner to explain what's wrong with the system. He waits when he rings the doorbell for them to show up. He does his own share of waiting, and then I wait on him. And then, right when I finished that, he showed up. Okay, he arrived, and he waited, like I said, as I described the issue with the leaking zone. We talked about different ways that it could be fixed, and then he set out to find the valve that is in a little box in the ground. And you've probably seen these around your house if you have that, or if you've been to a golf course or any sort of managed property, you'll see these little boxes in the ground. They're green, so they look like grass, right? And you flip the lid open, and there's some spiders inside probably, but there's also some pipes and valves going in and out, and those are the little valves that are opened automatically by the system. And he had to find this little box that had the valve for zone 1. He had to find that. He found all the other valves, but he couldn't find that one. Grass had grown over the top of it, and I didn't install this system. Had I done that, I would have written down the locations. I would have drawn a map, and I would have given general locations for where these things are. But that didn't exist. So this guy started searching around for the box, and you look at places where it might be. He had a very long screwdriver. He'd poke around trying to feel it in the ground, but he never found it. He called back to the main office to ask if there was anything in my file. He had to wait while someone answered the phone, and he had to wait while they looked it up. And there was no luck there. He found no records in our system. So he pulled out a machine that searches. It's a listener, okay, and it does some sort of it searches for underground current. It doesn't listen for the current. It has a sensor in it that detects current nearby. You've seen these things. The electricians have them, and there's a very, very light current in the wires that are in the system. And so he had this machine, and he puts on some earphones, and it sends some sound to him that alerts him when the nose of that thing is close to the wire. That works with some electric fields and magnetic fields. And I didn't really want to get into the physics with him. Well, I wanted to get into the physics with him, but I wanted him to get on his way. So I didn't make him later than normal. But as he's looking for this wire in the ground, there's another guy across the street who is pressure washing a driveway. So the sound of the pressure washer makes it nearly impossible to hear the little beeps that the machine is sending, the feedback from the machine. Even though there's headphones on the machine, it was nearly impossible for him to hear. He was a little frustrated with that. And he searched for about half an hour. He was out there. And this is not a particularly big front yard. This is, I don't know how big it is. If you've been here, you know how big it is. It's not very big. But if you're looking for a little box that is maybe, 8 inches in diameter, it might take some time, certainly with the grass growing over it. And so his morning schedule went to hell in a handbasket. Eventually he found the box. He found the valve. He tightened the valve, and now all is well. But he had lots of waiting. Like I said, I don't do well with waiting. I find myself constantly waiting for things like the seasons to change. I suffer, as we've talked on this show a number of times, I suffer from, I guess I'll call it lack of contentment. I'm not content with my discontentedness, or the only thing I'm content with is discontentedness. So if I have difficulty being content with what season it is. I always want the next one coming. All right. In winter, I long for the spring, look forward to the warm weather and the days with longer sunlight, trees leafing out and the flowers blooming, that sort of thing. And no need for heavy jackets, all that stuff. Spring looks really good when you're in winter. And then in the spring, I long for summer. I want more warm days. I want easy traveling. I want vacations. I want the things that happen in the summer. The spring can still be kind of fickle. Sometimes you get freezing weather followed by having to turn on the air conditioner the next day. But summer always looks nice when I'm in spring. And then when I'm in summer, I long for autumn. And I think autumn might be my favorite, but we've talked about that with autumn leaves. Last fall, we talked about that. It's got cooler nights and the leaves turn fun colors. And there's all sorts of fun holidays. You get pumpkins. Some people say you get pumpkin spice, and so you put them in lattes and muffins and all sorts of things like that. Autumn looks really good when I'm in summer, but then when I'm in autumn, I kind of want winter to come. All right, that's the winter that 9 months ago I was longing to get rid of. I look forward to fires in the fireplace and beautiful snowfalls. I love that squeak that your shoes make when walking on a snow-covered sidewalk. I love Christmas and its long holiday, and I find myself never content with what is, but rather feeling a longing for what is to come, if only my waiting were complete. So that's, the seasons go on like that. And it's constant for me. My wife is always upset because I'm looking forward to the next one. During basketball and hockey season, I long for baseball to come in the spring. And during baseball, I can't wait for football season to start in late summer with the training camps and preseason games, and then the start of the season. And during football, I long for the start of basketball and hockey. It always seems that I want the next thing. The waiting for me is excruciating. We wait for holidays, our birthdays, 4-day weekends with President's Day, Martin Luther King Day, Memorial Day, Labor Day, Independence Day. These are all things we look forward to, right? We wait for them. These may be the things that we long for most, are these special little things that show up on our calendar. Valentine's Day, the whole Easter season, special feast days, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. The astronomical and meteorological and sports and civic and liturgical seasons define our culture. They define our very lives, but waiting for the next one of them is always quite hard. Why is it so hard? We hate waiting. Our culture works really hard to reduce our waiting. Look at what we have with online ordering, same day delivery, right? Everybody promises. I don't know how they do that. They must have, if they have something local, they can get it to my house. But I'm thinking, do I need, if I'm ordering a bar of soap, do I need it delivered that afternoon? Well, maybe, unless I do better planning. I should have enough soap in my, what do they call it? The linen closet or the soap pantry, whatever that is. And I should be able to plan well enough that when I get low on soap, I should be able to order it or just go get it, put it on my list for that week. We have instant downloads on our computers. Think about our internet speeds. I remember downloading things at 9,600 baud. I don't even know how slow that is anymore. I don't even think they measure it in the same way we used to have baud. We have frozen dinners, okay, and they cook in no time at all. We have drive-through fast food. We have all of these things. No waiting, no waiting, no waiting. And that seems to be that's a theme with us, is we don't like to wait. And that brings up the concept of patience. And this is the last little bit I looked up when I was making these notes. And I thought to myself, I really need to go look up what patience means, because we use that word all the time. We talk about waiting, and you can wait well or you can wait patiently. And it also was funny to me because we used to make jokes when I worked in pharma about patience and being patient with patients and stuff like that, because it's a silly little pun, and puns are the lowest form of humor. So we use them quite regularly. But I looked that up, and that word patience comes from a Latin word that means quite literally suffering. And that's, to me, that's an interesting thing, because the issue with waiting is how well you wait. And if you do the suffering of waiting well, then you are said to have patience. And the patients that are seen by a doctor or a dentist or whoever else sees patients, the patients are people who are suffering. And so keep in mind, when you're waiting, if you are being patient, then you are doing your suffering well. Anyway, what do they say? I was today years old when I learned that. Some of you who have been to high school back in the day when we used to do real things in literature class in high school may know of Andrew Marvell, an early 1600s, maybe 17th century, 1600s poet. He wrote one of my favorite poems which is called To His Coy Mistress. And it's a poem about the revulsion of waiting, of a young man trying to convince his beloved that her coyness, her modesty and steadfastness against his advances, that this coyness is silly in the long run. He's trying to tell her to not be patient, okay? Because he is not patient. He would like her to join him. He begins the poem by saying that if he had all the time in the world, waiting would not be a problem. And he says that death comes to all of us, and we shouldn't waste the time that we have. So let's get on it. It's basically what he says. I'm not sure I would encourage this as a lifestyle plan, but it does have its humor, its irony, perhaps. He begins talking in the poem about how her coyness would not be a problem if they had time. He says, "Had we but world enough and time, this coyness, lady, were no crime. We would sit down and think which way to walk and pass our long love's day. Thou by the Indian Ganges side should rubies find, I by the tide of Humber would complain. I would love you 10 years before the flood, and you should, if you please, refuse to the conversion of the Jews. My vegetable love should grow faster than empires and more slow. 100 years should go to praise thine eyes and on thy forehead gaze. 200 to adore each breast, but 30,000 to the rest. An age at least to every part, and the last age should show your heart. For lady, you deserve this state, nor would I love at a lower rate." All right, so he starts that with a very famous line, "Had we but world enough in time," which means like if we had all the time in the world, if you had everything, it wouldn't matter how much time I spend just lying around adoring your beauty, looking at your eyes. I would spend 30,000 years on every part of you, 200 on each breast. I would give 100 years to your eyes. And I would spend all the time in the world just adoring you if I had world enough and time. But then he says that we live finite lives. He continues, "But at my back I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near, and yonder all before us lie deserts of vast eternity. Thy beauty shall no more be found, nor in thy marble vault shall sound my echoing song. Then worms shall try that long preserved virginity. And your quaint honor turned to dust, and into ashes all my lust. The grave's a fine and private place, but none, I think, do there embrace." So we're going to die, baby. It's going to go. Your beauty will be tossed out. Worms will eat you up. Your honor will be nothing. My lust will be nothing, and we can't do anything in the grave. So death is a problem. So therefore, he concludes by saying we should make hay while the sun shines. We shouldn't pass up this opportunity. We should stop dawdling. He says, "Now therefore, while the youthful hue sits on thy skin like morning dew, and while thy willing soul transpires at every pore with instant fires, now let us sport us while we may, and now like amorous birds of prey, rather at once our time devour than languish in his slow-chapped power. Let us roll all our strength and all our sweetness up into one ball, and tear our pleasures with rough strife through the iron gates of life. Thus, though we cannot make our sun stand still, yet we can make him run." So there's the whole poem. It'd be great if we had lots of time. We don't have time. We're going to die. So baby, let's get it on, is what he says. And I'm not sure that Mr. Marvel would be successful in trying to woo his coy mistress with this sentiment. But but that sentiment is still evident today. Nobody likes to wait. And so I'm thinking, is waiting bad, or is it just a component of a world that lives in space and time? Well, the book of Proverbs addresses waiting. And in particular, it addresses waiting for the Lord. In chapter 20, verse 22, the proverb says, "Do not say, I will repay evil Wait for the Lord, and he will help you. That wait for the Lord statement with regard to repaying evil, it's a statement that says you are not an agent of divine retribution. God does the whole justice thing a whole lot better than you do. Seeking vengeance may seem nice. It may seem like a thing you want to do, but that might come back to haunt you. It is best to leave this vengeance thing, this retribution thing to the big guy. We talked about this in episode 285 with regard to forgiveness and absolving someone from their debt they owe to you. You need to trust in God's final day of judgment and mercy. It's a day of judgment and also a day of mercy, and he will do both. He will do both perfectly is the promise. And that is something that I know I cannot do. I trust the listeners out there, unless the internet goes to the other realm. I don't think he's listening. So at least not on the internet. We have to trust that all will be fulfilled and made right in the end, even if not in this world. If not then, it will be made right in the world to come. So we have to be patient. We must suffer well. That's what we're called to do. We're called to be patient. That is a virtue. Patience is a virtue. And we need to wait. It may be a very long game. Someone wrongs you when you're 12. You may just have to eat that and trust that that God's retribution will be proper, at least in the long run. Psalm 27 in verses 13 and 14 also talks about waiting. This is a psalm that starts out with a line you may recognize. It says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" And then it lists all sorts of ways that the Lord will provide what we need. It is called a triumphant song of confidence in the Lord. The last stanza is one you may well know. It says, "I believe that I shall see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord." Indeed, there are a lot of passages in the Bible ascribed to the concept of waiting and the need to do so, and to do so well, to do so patiently. What do they say? All things in due time, both growth and decay, both take time. My mom likes to say, all snow melts, all bleeding stops. The second one's more of a joke. I have friends who say, this too shall pass. So today, I write these words to be dropped to you, hopefully, on the 21st of April. And as I say these words and record them early, I am awaiting a number of things and hopefully trying to do them better. I'm waiting contentment, guidance, courage, humility, grace, clarity, and the strength to align my will with that of God. I am praying for God to do, as he often does, his magic trick of bringing something good out of something bad. But most of all, I and those close to me are awaiting something very special. We are awaiting a new grandchild on or about the 22nd of April. So as I record this, we have not yet met her. When the next episode drops after this one, we trust she will be here. Time will reveal the details. So we sit and we wait, hopefully patiently, biding our time with hope and looking forward to her arrival with great joy. Behold, I make all things new. Wait for the Lord, be strong, and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. All shall be well. Seek the good, live virtuously, and flourish, and enjoy the adventure of life.
It's going to be a great day.